The blood that changed everything. The battlefield was silent now. Only the sound of rain falling over broken metal and burned soil remained. The war between humans and the alien Varelians had lasted for months, and both sides had lost more than they could count among the wreckage. A lone human soldier named Ryan struggled to stay awake. His armor cracked, his weapon lost, his leg bleeding. He had been separated from his unit when the airstrike hit. Through the smoke and flames he heard a faint sound, a soft cry, almost like a whisper. He turned his head and saw something glowing weakly under the ruins of a fallen alien ship, dragging himself closer. He saw her, an alien woman, her skin pale blue, her hair silver like moonlight, and a deep wound across her chest. She was clearly dying. Her breathing shallow and trembling. Her royal crest was torn but still visible on her shoulder. She was no ordinary soldier. She was someone important. Ryan hesitated. The enemy lay before him. The same kind who had killed his friends, burned his cities. But something in her weak eyes made him stop. She looked not like a monster, but like someone terrified of dying alone. She whispered something in her language, words he could not understand. But the tone was clear. She was begging, not for mercy but for help. He looked around, his medkit was empty, his communicator dead, and the only thing left was his own blood. He remembered hearing from the field doctors that Varelian biology was close to human in structure. A crazy idea formed in his head. It was dangerous, maybe impossible, but he had no other choice. Slowly he removed a blade from his belt and cut his palm, letting his blood drip onto her wound. At first nothing happened, but then her body shivered. The glowing veins across her neck pulsed faintly. Her eyes flickered open, silver irises shining under the rain. She looked at him in shock, confusion, and disbelief. Her hand trembled as she reached out, touching his face like she was trying to see if he was real. Then she whispered one word in broken English. "Why?" Ryan smiled weakly. "Because you were dying," he said, his voice tired. "And I couldn't watch someone die like that." She closed her eyes again, her breathing stabilizing, her wound slowly sealing with a faint light. Ryan didn't understand what was happening, but he knew one thing. His blood had done something strange. It had connected them somehow. The bond felt warm but heavy, like a thread tying their lives together. Moments later, distant footsteps echoed in the ruins. Alien soldiers searching for survivors. Ryan tried to stand but fell to his knees, his vision fading. The last thing he saw before darkness took him was the alien princess lifting her hand weakly toward him, whispering something that sounded like a promise. When Ryan woke again, he was no longer on the battlefield. He was inside a soft chamber filled with golden light, alien symbols glowing on the walls, and sitting beside him was the same princess, alive, dressed in royal robes, watching him with unreadable eyes, and when she spoke, her voice was calm but firm. "Human, you gave me your blood. Now your life belongs to me." The moment hung in the air, silent and heavy. The soldier who saved an alien princess had no idea that his simple act of kindness had changed the fate of two worlds forever, and the bond of blood between them was only beginning. The bond that shouldn't exist. Ryan's head was spinning when he tried to move. His body felt heavy as if gravity itself had increased. Strange symbols glowed softly on the walls, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. It was a room unlike any he had ever seen. Elegant and alien, carved with silver veins that shimmered under soft blue light. He slowly realized he was not in any human base. This was Varelian territory, deep inside the alien royal ship. The alien princess sat near him, her long silver hair falling across her shoulders, her posture calm yet full of authority. Her eyes glowed faintly as they studied him. She was alive, truly alive, and the wound that had almost taken her life was gone, as if it had never existed. Ryan remembered the battlefield, the rain, his blood falling on her wound. He looked at his bandaged palm, the cut still fresh, and then looked back at her. "What did you do to me?" he asked quietly, his voice dry. The princess tilted her head slightly, her voice soft but sharp. "It is not what I did, human. It is what you did," she said. "Your blood, it bonded with mine. It should not be possible." No Varelian has ever survived human blood. And yet, here I am, breathing. Her words sent a chill down his spine. Ryan tried to sit up, but two alien guards stepped forward instantly, their tall figures covered in silver armor, their weapons aimed directly at his chest. The princess raised her hand, signaling them to stop. "Leave us," she ordered, her tone leaving no room for argument. The guards bowed slightly and left the chamber, leaving the two alone in the glowing silence. She turned back to him, her expression unreadable. "I am Princess Lyra of the Varelian Empire," she said. "And you, human soldier, have done something that may be forbidden by both our worlds." She moved closer, her eyes locking onto his. "You have created a living bond, a fusion of our blood, our energy, and our fate." Ryan blinked, confused and afraid. "A bond?" he repeated. She nodded slowly. "When your blood entered mine, it recognized something it should not. It accepted me, and my body accepted you. It means that if you die—" "I die," she whispered, the words striking like thunder in his mind. "And if I am hurt, you will feel it too." He stared at her, struggling to process what she was saying. "That's impossible," he muttered. "Humans can't—" "But you did," she interrupted sharply, "and now I cannot break it." There was silence for a long moment. Only the hum of the ship filled the air. Ryan looked away, realizing the danger if her people found out. They might kill him to erase the proof. Then, "What happens now?" he asked finally. The princess stood up slowly, her presence radiating power. "Now, human, you stay alive. Because if you die, the blood bond will kill me, and my people will tear your world apart for it," she said, her tone half a threat, half a warning. She turned toward the door, then paused and looked back. "You will remain under my protection," she added quietly. "No one is allowed to touch you. You are mine now." Her words hit him harder than any bullet. "Mine," she said it with the weight of command, not affection, yet something in her eyes betrayed a flicker of emotion she tried to hide. He didn't know whether to feel safe or trapped. That night, when the lights dimmed and the alien ship drifted through the stars, Ryan sat alone, his thoughts heavy. He could still feel her heartbeat echo faintly in his chest, like a ghost pulse that wasn't his, and somewhere in another room, the princess pressed her hand against her heart, feeling the same strange rhythm. Their lives now bound together by blood neither fully understood. Outside, deep in the void, both empires moved closer to war, unaware that a single act of human kindness had tied their futures into one impossible fate, a bond born from blood, and a connection that might either save the galaxy or destroy it. The princess's defiance days passed since the bond was formed, yet Ryan still couldn't believe what had happened to him. Every corner of the alien ship reminded him that he didn't belong here. Its walls hummed with energy, doors opened with whispers of light, and strange symbols floated in the air like living things. Alien eyes followed him wherever he went. Guards, servants, even the scientists, all staring at him as if he was a dangerous animal that somehow escaped its cage. The only person who didn't look at him that way was Princess Lyra. She remained calm, composed, and unreadable. But Ryan could see the storm behind her eyes. She was fighting something. Her council, her generals, maybe even her own heart. She had called him hers, and that word had spread through the royal ship like fire. Now everyone whispered that their sacred princess was connected to a human soldier, a species they considered primitive and brutal. One morning, Ryan was escorted to the royal chamber by two silent guards. Inside stood Lyra, surrounded by members of the High Council, their tall figures draped in flowing silver robes, their faces pale and cold, the air thick with tension. One of them spoke sharply. "Your Highness, this creature is a risk to our bloodline, to the entire empire. You must release him." Ryan stayed silent, his jaw clenched. He could understand some of their words now, thanks to the translation device the princess had given him. Another elder spoke, his voice trembling with disgust. "He carries poison in his veins. Human blood is unstable. What if it corrupts your essence? We cannot allow this contamination to continue." Lyra stood still for a moment, her back straight, her gaze steady. Then she said softly, If you believe my blood is corrupted, then destroy me too." Her words cut through the hall like a blade. Silence fell instantly. Even Ryan felt his heart stop. She stepped closer to the council. "He saved my life when your soldiers left me to die. His blood gave me strength when my body failed me. And if that act is considered a crime, then I will face your punishment alongside him." The council members exchanged nervous looks. None of them dared to answer. Ryan stared at her in disbelief. He could see the determination in her eyes, a quiet fire that no fear could extinguish. She wasn't just defending him out of gratitude. There was something deeper, something she hadn't yet spoken aloud. When the meeting ended, Lyra dismissed everyone but him. Once they were alone, Ryan stepped forward, his voice low. "Why did you do that?" he asked. "They could have turned against you." She turned to face him slowly. "Because they already have," she whispered. "They see me as weak for protecting you, but I will not let them harm what keeps me alive." She looked away, her voice trembling slightly. "I can feel your heartbeat, Ryan. Even when you're not near me. When you are afraid, I feel it too. This bond is not just blood, it's emotion, it's something alive." Her words left him silent. He didn't know how to respond. He felt it too. That strange pull between them. The way his heart reacted when she entered the room. It wasn't love yet, but it was something powerful and dangerous. That evening, while he rested in his quarters, a sudden wave of pain shot through his chest. He gasped, grabbing his ribs. His vision blurred for a moment. He stumbled out of bed. Alarms blaring through the ship. He ran toward the corridor, only to see guards rushing toward the princess's chamber. His instincts screamed at him. "She's hurt." He pushed through the guards, ignoring their shouts, bursting into her room. He saw Lyra on the ground, clutching her arm, blood shimmering like liquid silver. One of her own advisors stood before her, a dagger glowing in his hand. "Forgive me, my princess," the traitor said coldly. "But your bond is a curse to our race." Ryan didn't think. He moved, grabbing a fallen weapon from the floor. And before the alien could strike again, Ryan tackled him, forcing the blade away. The fight was quick but brutal, and by the time it ended, the traitor lay unconscious, Ryan breathing hard, covered in cuts, his pulse racing. Lyra looked at him, her lips trembling, her voice barely a whisper. "You felt it, didn't you?" Ryan nodded. "Every heartbeat," he said, his tone soft but full of meaning. For a long moment they stared at each other, two enemies bound by something far beyond reason. And outside, the war continued to rage, unaware that deep inside an alien warship, a forbidden bond between a human soldier and an alien princess had already begun to rewrite the rules of life itself. Lyra closed her eyes, leaning against him for a brief moment, and whispered, "If they find out what our bond truly means, they will not stop until one of us is dead." Ryan's answer came quietly, but with steel in his voice. "Then they'll have to go through me first." And in that moment, something unspoken began to change between them. Trust, fragile but real, growing like a spark in the darkness of war. The awakening of power. The attack changed everything. The Council's attempt to end the bond had exposed a deeper rot within the Varelian Empire. Whispers spread through the ship that the princess had been corrupted by the human, that she no longer carried the purity of royal blood. But Lyra didn't flinch. Even with the blade wound still healing, she remained cold and composed. Yet inside, her heart trembled with confusion and fear. She didn't fear death anymore. She feared losing him. Ryan was now guarded day and night by soldiers loyal only to Lyra. Though most of them still despised him, they obeyed her command because she was their princess. He could feel their glares every time he passed, but what bothered him most wasn't their hatred. It was the strange energy inside his body. Ever since the fight, he felt stronger, faster, more alert. His senses sharper than before. It was as if something inside him had awakened. He discovered it the next morning when he touched one of the alien healing crystals. It glowed bright blue under his hand, reacting to him as if recognizing its master. The alien guards gasped in horror. One whispered, "Only royal blood can command the cores." Ryan stepped back in shock. Realizing what that meant, his blood had changed. Lyra rushed in when she heard the news. her eyes wide as she watched the crystal pulse between them, the light of her power and his merging together. "It's not just a bond," she whispered. "It's evolution. The blood is rewriting your body." She moved closer, scanning his pulse with a small device, her voice trembling. "Ryan, your cells are carrying Varelian energy." He stared at her, uncertain whether to feel terrified or amazed. "So I'm turning into one of you?" he asked half-jokingly, her expression turned serious. "No, you're becoming something new," she said. "Something that shouldn't exist." Before they could say more, the ship shuddered violently, alarms blared across the corridor, and a voice came through the intercom. "Enemy fleet approaching. Unidentified human vessels entering Varelian airspace." The war had found them. Lyra turned toward the door, her command voice echoing. "Prepare for evasive maneuvers, shield the core decks, and do not engage until I order." She looked at Ryan. "You must stay here." He shook his head. "You know I won't." She gave a faint, helpless smile. "I was afraid you'd say that." The battle outside lit the sky, explosions painting the stars red and silver through the observation glass. Ryan watched human and Varelian ships exchange fire, two mighty forces destroying each other without knowing that their fates were already intertwined by blood. Suddenly, a heavy blast hit the ship, throwing both of them to the floor. Lyra groaned, clutching her chest. Ryan felt a sharp sting in his heart at the same time. Their connection burning like fire, he crawled toward her. "Lyra, are you okay?" she gasped. "It's the bond. Our bodies are sinking too deeply if one of us takes damage. It reflects on the other." He grabbed her arm, his voice steady but full of urgency. "Then let's stop waiting and fight together." Against all orders, he followed her to the command deck. The guards tried to stop him, but Lyra raised her hand. "Let him through," she commanded. "His life is mine." The soldiers hesitated but obeyed. As Ryan stood beside her at the controls, the ship's energy system began to flicker strangely. The core reacting again to his presence, the pilot shouted. "The system's merging with human energy signature." The control panels pulsed in dual colors, blue and red, human and alien energy fusing together in perfect harmony. The ship suddenly accelerated, shields doubling in strength, and a path opened through enemy fire. Lyra looked at him in awe. "You're stabilizing the energy field," she whispered. "It's responding to both of us." Ryan focused on the screen. "Then let's use it," he said, gripping the rail as the ship dove through the flames, firing precise shots that tore through enemy cruisers. It wasn't just skill. It was something beyond human reflex. He could feel her thoughts, her intentions, like a second voice in his mind guiding his actions. When the final enemy ship exploded in the distance, silence filled the deck. Soldiers stared at Ryan with disbelief. Lyra stood beside him, her voice soft but proud. "He saved us," she said. "Remember that, later, in the quiet of her private chamber." She faced him once more, her tone no longer formal. "You risked everything again," she said, her eyes shimmering faintly. Ryan smiled weakly. "Guess we're even now." She looked away, her voice trembling. "You don't understand, Ryan. The more you fight beside me, the stronger the bond grows. Soon it will not just link our hearts. It may merge our souls." He froze at her words, feeling the strange warmth spreading through his chest, deep and alive. "And if that happens?" he asked quietly. Lyra's gaze softened, a faint sadness hidden in her silver eyes. "Then neither of us will ever be free again." Outside, the stars burned bright, unaware that a new force was awakening in the universe, born from the blood of a human soldier and the heart of an alien princess, a bond that defied life, death, and destiny itself. The Empire's ultimatum. The war's noise faded for a while, but tension still hung heavy inside the alien flagship. The stars outside glowed cold and distant, as if watching silently what was about to unfold. Ryan walked through the narrow corridors under constant guard. Every alien he passed stopped to stare. Not in curiosity anymore, but in fear. They whispered about the human whose blood touched royal veins. To them, he was no longer just an enemy. He was a living anomaly that challenged the foundation of their empire. Lyra tried to maintain control, but her authority was slipping since the battle. Rumors spread fast through the fleets. Many believed she had used forbidden human magic to strengthen their ship. Others claimed she was bewitched. When the council summoned her to the Hall of Sovereigns, she knew it would not be a discussion. It would be judgment. Ryan wasn't allowed to attend, so he waited in her chamber, pacing like a caged soldier. The connection between them buzzed faintly in his chest. He could feel her tension, every heartbeat uneven, every breath heavy. It was as if his body reacted to her emotions even from miles away. He hated being powerless. Inside the grand hall, Lyra stood before the glowing throne of the High Regent. Her uncle, the man who had raised her since childhood. His voice echoed across the silver walls, calm but deadly. "My dear Lyra, you've brought disgrace upon our house. Your bond with a human has turned into a scandal that echoes through the fleets. Some even call you unfit to rule." Lyra bowed her head slightly, keeping her voice calm. "He saved my life when no one else did. I will not repay that with betrayal." The regent's eyes narrowed. "You think your mercy excuses the chaos you've caused? The human's presence has contaminated our energy fields. Half our ships are refusing to obey your commands." He leaned forward, his tone colder. "You must end this bond. By any means necessary." Lyra's heart sank. She knew what that meant. Kill the human. Destroy the link. But before she could speak, pain suddenly shot through her chest. She gasped, staggering slightly. The guards rushed forward, but she raised her hand. "No, I'm fine," she whispered. But she wasn't fine. She could feel Ryan's pain through the bond. Distant but sharp. Something was wrong. At that exact moment, in her private quarters, Ryan was attacked. 3 armed Varelian assassins had slipped through the security system, their eyes cold and focused. Ryan fought with nothing but his instincts and his training, dodging the first plasma blade, using the edge of a fallen chair as a weapon. But they were faster. One slashed his shoulder, the pain burning deep, and Lyra felt every cut as if it were her own. Back in the hall, she gasped again, blood running from her arm though she had not been touched. The council murmured in shock. "The bond! It's reacting!" someone whispered. The regent's face darkened. "You see, Lyra, this is the danger you bring to us." Lyra's eyes flashed. "The danger is your fear," she shouted suddenly, her voice echoing through the hall. "You call him a threat because you cannot understand him. But he risked his life for a stranger, something many of you have forgotten how to do." She turned, running out before the guards could stop her, ignoring the shocked gasps of the council members. When she reached her chamber, the door was half destroyed. Smoke and sparks filled the air. Ryan was kneeling, breathing heavily, his arm bleeding. 3 assassins lay unconscious around him. One still groaning, Ryan looked up as she rushed to him. "I'm okay," he muttered. Even as he swayed with exhaustion, Lyra knelt beside him, pressing her glowing hands over his wound, her energy merging with his blood. The cut closing slowly. Tears filled her eyes despite her calm face. "They will never stop," she whispered. "They fear what we are becoming." Ryan looked at her, his voice weak but steady. "Then we run," he said. "Find somewhere they can't reach us." Lyra shook her head. "There's nowhere safe within the Empire. They will hunt you until you're gone. And if I protect you, they will strip me of my crown." Ryan gave a faint, tired smile. "Then what's a crown worth if it means losing yourself?" he said quietly. His words hit her harder than any attack. She closed her eyes, remembering the child she used to be before politics, before the weight of the empire, before war turned her heart to steel. For the first time in years, she felt human emotions she didn't understand. Gratitude, guilt, affection, and something dangerously close to love. That night, she stood at the window watching the stars, her thoughts heavy. She could feel Ryan sleeping in the next room, their pulses steady, in rhythm, 2 different hearts beating as one. She whispered to herself, "If destiny bound us by blood, then I will not let fate decide how this ends." The next morning, she made her choice. She entered the command room, her voice firm. "Prepare my private cruiser. Deactivate all tracking signals." Her captain hesitated. "Princess, that's treason." She looked at him with cold resolve. "No, that's survival." As the engines roared to life, Ryan woke to find her waiting with a small case of supplies. "Where are we going?" he asked. "Somewhere beyond both empires," she said, "where no one can command our blood or our hearts." He looked at her for a long moment, realizing what she was risking, and for the first time he called her by name. "Lyra." "Thank you." She turned her head slightly, a faint smile touching her lips. "Don't thank me yet, human. Once we leave this ship, there's no going back." As the cruiser detached from the royal fleet and vanished into the starlit void, both knew that this journey would either free them or destroy everything they had left. And far behind them, in the vast council hall, the regent watched their ship disappear on the scanner, his voice cold with fury. "Then so be it," he said. "If the princess has chosen the human, we will bring the wrath of the Empire upon them both." The world beyond stars. The cruiser sailed through endless darkness, far beyond the reach of the Varelian patrols. It was a stolen royal vessel built for speed and silence. And for the first time in weeks, Ryan and Lyra were truly alone. No soldiers, no orders, no empire breathing down their necks. Just the sound of the ship's quiet hum and the stars passing by like distant ghosts. Lyra sat in the pilot's chair, her hands steady on the controls, her face calm but her eyes tired. She hadn't slept since they fled. Her thoughts were full of questions she couldn't answer. What had they become? What would happen if the bond continued to evolve? She could feel Ryan's heartbeat even when he was asleep in the next chamber. It was comforting. And terrifying at the same time. Ryan woke slowly. Feeling the vibration of the ship through the floor, his wound had healed completely, leaving only a faint silver scar where the alien energy had touched him. His strength had returned, but something inside him had changed. His senses felt sharper. He could see in dim light, hear faint sounds, even sense emotions nearby when he entered the cockpit. He could tell Lyra was thinking about him before she even looked his way. "Any sign of pursuit?" he asked quietly. She shook her head. "Not yet, but they will find us eventually. My people are relentless when they think their honor is at stake." Ryan leaned against the window, watching the glow of a nearby nebula. "You really gave up everything for this, didn't you?" Lyra's hands paused for a moment, her voice softer now. "I didn't give it up. I chose differently," she said. "And maybe for the first time, I made that choice for myself." They descended hours later onto a small uncharted planet, a forgotten world covered in green forests and blue mist. The scanners showed no signs of life or surveillance, just nature untouched. As they stepped out into the open air, Ryan took a deep breath. The wind felt warm and clean. For the first time in years, he wasn't surrounded by war. They built a small camp near a lake, using the cruiser's materials for shelter. At night, they sat by the fire, the silence between them no longer cold but full of unspoken words. Lyra watched the reflection of flames in the water, her voice quiet. Back home, they would call this planet cursed, abandoned by the gods. Ryan smiled faintly. "Seems peaceful to me." She turned to him, her expression soft. "Maybe peace itself is the curse," she whispered, and he couldn't tell if she was joking or not. Days turned into weeks, and life slowly found rhythm. Ryan hunted small creatures, studied the planet's strange plants, while Lyra tried to understand the changes in their bond. She ran endless tests using her scanners, every result more confusing than the last. "Your blood has adapted completely," she told him one evening. "It's not just similar to mine anymore, it's the same." Ryan frowned. "You mean, if someone tested it, they would call you Varelian," she said, her voice low. "And yet, you are still human." He stared into the distance, struggling to absorb the truth. His reflection in the lake shimmered strangely, his eyes faintly glowing with silver light. He whispered, "Maybe this bond wasn't an accident." Lyra looked at him sharply. "What do you mean?" "I mean maybe something or someone made sure this could happen," he said. "A link between our species. Maybe evolution trying to connect what war divided." That night, while he slept, Lyra couldn't rest. She walked outside, looking at the stars, her heart heavy. She could feel his dreams through the bond, fragments of his memories, battlefields, pain, laughter, loss, humanity in all its beauty and cruelty. Tears welled in her eyes as she realized she wasn't just connected to his body, but to his soul. The next morning, everything changed. A strange pulse of energy swept through the forest. Shaking the ground, Lyra rushed out, scanning the horizon. "It's a tracker wave," she said, her voice urgent. "They've found us." Before Ryan could speak, a light erupted in the sky. A Varelian warship descending fast, its engines roaring, soldiers in silver armor pouring out as the ship landed in the clearing. Lyra grabbed his arm. "We can't fight them, not yet." Ryan looked at her, his eyes glowing faintly. "Then we run!" They sprinted through the forest, blasters firing behind them, trees burning as energy bolts sliced through the air, the bond between them pulsing wildly with adrenaline and fear. One blast hit the ground near them, throwing Ryan off his feet. Pain shot through his leg, and instantly Lyra screamed, clutching hers. The bond had fully synchronized. Their pain one and the same. Ryan forced himself up, pulling her along despite the agony. "Keep moving," he shouted. They reached the edge of a cliff, the drop below endless, the enemy closing in behind them. Lyra looked at him, breathing hard. "There's no way out," she said. Ryan smiled faintly despite the pain. "You said it yourself." "Our bond defies everything," he said, grabbing her hand tightly. "Let's see if it can defy death too." Before she could answer, he jumped, pulling her with him. The wind screamed past them as they fell, the Varelian soldiers staring in shock, but before they hit the water below, a burst of blue energy surrounded them, the bond erupting into light, wrapping their bodies in a glowing cocoon that slowed their fall until they landed softly on the river's surface. When they came to rest on the shore, Lyra stared at him in disbelief, her voice trembling. "That wasn't the bond. That was something else." Ryan looked at his hands, still faintly glowing. "Maybe the bond is evolving again," he said, his tone quiet. "And maybe it's no longer just about survival." In the distance, the enemy ship lifted off again, searching, unaware that something far greater had just awakened. A power born from two souls bound by blood, a force that could change not only them but the future of both species. Lyra turned toward him, her expression filled with awe and fear. "Ryan, whatever we've become, they'll never stop hunting us now." He met her gaze steadily, his voice calm. "Then let them come." Because for the first time, he no longer felt like just a human soldier. He felt like something greater, a bridge between two worlds. The blood that united. Two worlds. The days that followed their fall into the river were quiet but heavy with tension. The forest around them glowed with alien light at night. And in that silence, Ryan and Lyra both knew their time was running short. The Varelian Empire would not stop, not until they were captured or killed. Ryan's wounds healed quickly again, faster than they should have. His body was no longer human in the way it once was. His skin carried faint silver veins under the surface, his heartbeat steady but powerful. He felt Lyra's presence constantly, not just as emotion or pain, but as energy flowing through him like light through blood. The bond was no longer two beings linked by chance. It was becoming one life shared between two souls. One evening, as the twin moons rose, Lyra sat by the fire, her expression distant, her voice barely above a whisper. "Ryan, I found something in the old archives before we fled," she said. Records of experiments the High Regent hid from the Empire centuries ago. They tried to merge human DNA with ours during the First Contact Wars, but it failed. Every subject died. Except one. Ryan looked up slowly, his chest tightening. "You think that's connected to us?" Lyra nodded, her eyes glimmering in the firelight. "I think that blood of yours, the reason it saved me, it wasn't ordinary human blood. It was already changed long before you were born. A forgotten experiment reborn through you." He stared at her in silence, the truth sinking like stone in his chest. "So I was part of something I never knew," he said softly. "And the war that destroyed my planet might have started because of that secret." Lyra reached out, her hand trembling as she touched his arm. "You were never their weapon, Ryan. You became something greater because you chose to save. Not to destroy, Before he could answer, the ground shook violently, a deep rumble echoing through the valley. Ryan looked up to see the clouds parting, massive Varelian warships descending, their lights flooding the forest like false daylight. Lyra's face turned pale. "They found us," she whispered. The ships landed in a semicircle, and from the largest one emerged the High Regent himself, surrounded by armored guards, his voice booming through a loudspeaker. "Princess Lyra, surrender the human and the bond may still be severed. Resist, and both of you die." Ryan stood beside her, his fists clenched. "We can't fight them all," he said. Lyra looked at him, her eyes steady. "Maybe we don't have to," she said. "Maybe we show them what the bond truly means." Before he could protest, she stepped forward into the clearing, Ryan following. Soldiers raised their weapons immediately. But the regent lifted a hand, signaling them to wait, his voice cold. "You shame our bloodline, Lyra, and for what? An experiment gone wrong?" Lyra's voice carried across the clearing, calm but burning with fire. "You call it wrong because you fear it, but this bond, this connection, shows what our two worlds could be if we stopped living in hate," she said, her tone rising. "I felt his memories, his pain, his kindness, and for the first time I understood humanity. They are not monsters. They are mirrors," the regent sneered. "Beautiful words. But peace built on impurity is no peace at all." He raised his weapon, a shimmering spear of energy. "Then let history remember your end as the price of defiance." The spear shot forward, a bolt of energy blazing toward them. Ryan reacted without thinking, stepping in front of Lyra. But the moment the blast hit, the bond flared to life. A massive burst of blue and red light erupted around them. Forming a shield of pure energy, the power pushed the soldiers back. Shaking the ground, the light spread upward. Touching the clouds, Ryan felt his veins burn with energy, Lyra's hand gripping his tightly, the bond pulling their souls closer until he could hear her thoughts. "Don't fight it. Let it flow," she whispered in his mind. The light around them intensified, and suddenly, every soldier on the field froze. Not out of fear, but awe. The glowing energy between them shifted, showing visions in the air. Memories, not just theirs, but from both species, humans and Varelians throughout history. Moments of kindness, sacrifice, war, and love. The soldiers watched as scenes of both races helping each other flashed before them, as if the bond itself was forcing everyone to see the truth that had been buried for centuries. The regent stumbled backward, his weapon falling from his hands. This is impossible," he whispered. Lyra's voice echoed through the light. "No, uncle, this is evolution," she said. "Our blood was never meant to divide us. It was meant to unite us." Ryan could feel his strength fading, the bond consuming everything, his voice weak. "Lyra, if we keep this up, it'll kill us." She looked at him, tears in her silver eyes. "Then we die showing them what we were meant to be." The light reached its peak, a wave of energy spreading across the battlefield. Disarming weapons, melting armor, yet harming no one, it washed over the ships, through the forest, into the sky, connecting everything alive with one pulse of shared existence. And then silence. When the light faded, Ryan lay on the ground, his body weak, barely breathing. Lyra knelt beside him, her hands trembling as she held his face. "Stay with me," she whispered, her voice breaking. He smiled faintly, his voice soft. "Guess I finally ended a war." Tears rolled down her cheeks as she whispered, "No, Ryan. You started a new world." The soldiers lowered their weapons one by one. The regent fell to his knees, unable to speak. The war was over before another shot could be fired. Above them, the sky shimmered faintly with lingering traces of red and blue light, a sign of the union that had rewritten both species' destiny. Weeks later, monuments were built where they had fallen. The place now called the Field of Two Bloods, a sacred ground where peace began. Lyra stood alone before it, the wind brushing her silver hair, her eyes glowing faintly with the same silver-blue energy. She placed her hand over her heart, feeling that faint, steady rhythm still beating within her. The echo of Ryan's heart, still alive inside her through the bond. Her whisper broke the quiet. "You're still with me," she said softly. And as long as our blood flows, they will remember that peace was born from kindness, not conquest, and as the twin suns rose over the horizon, their light merged into one, red and blue forming violet across the sky, symbolizing what the galaxy would forever remember: the human who gave his blood to save an alien princess, and the princess who gave her soul to save humanity. Their love had defied empires, rewritten science, and reminded two worlds that sometimes the greatest power in the universe is compassion.